Now, back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
All right, Evan Giddings in for Matt Steinmetz and Gerald the Guru Johnson. Let's get right to it. We have, in my opinion, the most electric pitcher in the game of baseball, and he happens to be in our backyard. From the Oakland Athletics, the closer, Mason Miller, joining us here on 95.7 The Game. Mason, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How about you?
We're doing fantastic, especially whenever you climb the hill in the ninth inning, man. And I think you've had a really interesting story. I myself am a Division III product, so I just want to say first and foremost, thanks for putting on for us. And I did want to ask, kind of starting out, just where you've grabbed the attention of everyone, the velocity, the strikeout numbers, really the unhittability. Do you feel like right now that this is the best that you've ever been? Or do you feel like there's still room to get better?
There's always room to get better. Any player that's satisfied with where they're at or gets too comfy, there's guys out there that are hungry and always looking to take your spot. So, I definitely think I'm ready to get some more improvements out there, whether it's usage, mechanics, approach, any number of things. Just never getting too comfortable,
Mason, let me ask you this and first give you congratulations. Last year, this time, you guys were 9-34. You're 19-23 now. You guys play hard, but you start your season off with the news that the team is moving to Sacramento. Can you just walk us through the mindset of how you guys just focused on baseball and dealt with the noise off the field?
Yeah, we're on a unique position for sure. This is a difficult time for the organization, but we as players, fortunately, don't have to make any of those decisions. So regardless of how we feel about it, we get to the field, show up, and, try to win that day. And right now, that's today, tomorrow, this season before, we worry about any of that extra stuff that's down the road.
We're talking to Mason Miller here on 95.7 The Game, closer for the Oakland Athletics. Mason, you're also just named the reliever of the month in the American League last month, so congratulations to you. But last year you were a starter and then underwent the UCL sprain. I know you came back at the end of the year, and now you've been moved to that relieving role. What do you think is the biggest difference between being a starter and being a closer? Do you notice any difference in your mentality? What's the biggest difference between those two roles to you?
Preparation. That's the biggest difference. I think as a starter, when you're starting every fifth day, you come to the field on those other 4 days, you get your work in, you watch the game, but you're obviously not going in there. Any role in the bullpen, really, but especially the closer, it's like any single day you show up to the field, you could be getting in there that night. So just being prepared for that and wanting to be in that situation has been the biggest adjustment, but I kind of really think into it. I like it. I like being locked in on the game. I like having a chance to pitch and affect the game any given day, whether it happens or not.
Hey, Mason, I got a couple baseball diehard fans. They're friends. We sit around and talk about the game, and offense is down around Major League Baseball. And a lot of people are saying, you know what? You're throwing 103, every other pitch, if not faster. They're saying a lot more pitchers are throwing the ball harder. You need to do something to the mound. When you hear stuff like that, what goes through your mind? Do you see more guys throwing more heat and making it more difficult for hitters?
Sure. I think you say swing and miss. Swing and miss is what gets people to the big leagues. It was what gets people paid. Keeping guys off base and keeping guys from making contact just makes you more of a weapon to your team. And in the long run, it kind of just bodes well for you and your career. I think I'd have a hard time seeing that changing, whether any changes are made to the mound or anything like that. I think swing and miss will still be valuable.
Mason Miller joining us here on 95.7 The Game, closer for the Oakland Athletics. When was the last time you felt like you had a difficult out? I'm not saying, there's a particular hitter or kind of hitter that you fear, so to speak, but with your stuff, it does appear, Mason, like if you execute your pitches, there's not really any bat that's going to be able to do damage to you. When was the last time you felt like you had a difficult out, and what is that like?
Yeah, I think, going into an at-bat, guys that can do damage. I've had success against guys, Soto, Judge, Henderson, any Seager, Simeon, any number of these guys can all do damage with one swing. And I think just going into the at-bat and knowing that, execute a pitch and get ahead, kind of get them on their heels a little bit, and then you just put the pedal down, attack them, stay out in front. The sooner you put them in an advantageous count, the more of a chance you give them.
Mason, this might be a bit corny, but I love when I get a chance to talk to pro athletes, like the timeline. Can you share with us when you knew, you know what, I got a hell of an arm, I got action at playing in Major League Baseball?
I'd like to think it was before the draft, but I think throughout the journey, you have moments of confidence, moments of doubt, and it's just finding ways to work through that and, continue to find ways to improve. So, after getting drafted, I think every kid that gets drafted, it's like they're not dreaming of playing in the minor leagues. They're thinking of playing in the majors. So, if the team thinks enough of you to take a shot at you in the draft, I think that should be every player's kind of expectation is I'm going to play in the big leagues.
Well, as someone who started out at the Division III level, there are examples of stories and players that have made it to the majors. But when did that dream for you, Mason, kind of, become more of a reality? Was it when you got to Gardner-Webb, or when did you start to think that, hey, this is something I can do this, and I might be really damn good at it?
I think getting into pro ball was really the final test. I think every time you jump up a level, whether it's in college or from high school to college or college to the professionals, just comparing yourself and seeing how you stack up against your peers, and really just seeing how my stuff played against some of the best hitters, in our organization and around, complex leagues that first year after the draft. I think that was when I had a pretty good idea that, I'm going to have a chance to move fast and see where this thing can take me.
Yeah, speaking of which, Mason, you guys got action. You're one of the surprise teams, in my estimation, on this young year in MLB. The us against the world mentality, how much has that shocked you? And for A's fans listening, can you guys keep it up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this has been the expectation we've had of ourselves for a while now. We played better down the stretch last year. Just the way we started last year put us in such a hole and gave us such a narrative that was hard to shake from a lot of people's minds. We played competitive baseball down the stretch, and then coming into this year, we know the group that we have, a little bit closer knit than last year. Guys we know we can count on, and some guys in some new roles that are really helping the team. But yeah, it's our intention and our goal every day to go out and, keep playing competitive baseball.
A's closer Mason Miller joining us here on 95.7 The Game. Speaking of noise, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, there was a report last week from Ken Rosenthal about the interest that a lot of teams have in you, and naturally, because of how good you've been, how dominant you've been. How much attention do you pay towards that? How do you try and keep that noise from affecting what you're doing on the mound, which is continuing to mow batters down at a pretty ridiculous rate?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have that acknowledgement and that respect. But at the same time, I'm 100% focused on this group that we have here, and none of my feelings or actions will really affect the eventual outcome of this situation, whether it's maybe interested or not. So I'm just keeping my head down, keeping working, and remaining committed to this group that we have right here.
Mason, I saw you were born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I got to ask you, who was your guy coming up and your team that made you fall in love with the game?
Pirates, for sure. There's a lot of tough years in there, but a couple of little exciting years there. I think around 2013 or so, we had a couple good seasons. But growing up, McCutcheon was my favorite Pirate, for sure. There's a lot of guys seeing Garrett Cole pitch at a younger point in his career. The stadium's beautiful. It's an easy to make a fan out of, a guy that loves baseball, that lives near Pittsburgh.
So how weird was that? The Pirates just left you, about a week or two ago, just seeing McCutcheon, your hero, on the field with you.
It's a surreal moment, yeah. I've had several of those moments, but, playing against the hometown team and got a save and finished out another game against them. So just getting that moment for me was really cool for both me and my family.
What do you feel like is the next step for you, Mason? I mean, you've been about as unhittable as any pitcher's been if you kind of look throughout history, what do you feel like is your next step this season?
Staying healthy. That's the goal. It's something that has been a knock on me in the past. I feel great right now. I think we're doing really smart about for managing me this year and my usage. Just focus on this year, continuing to dominate and, holding up the whole year.
Do you think that there is room for you in the future? I mean, do you want to get back into being a starting pitcher? Is that your goal long term?
Yeah, if the opportunity presents itself. The success I've had right now has definitely swayed that judgment a little bit. But, I think every pitcher wants to be a starter. You talk to any of them around the league. That's the goal, so we'll see.
Hey, Mason, let me ask you this before we let you go. There's a lot of injuries to the pitchers this year, starting pitchers, and I'm hearing a lot of people that didn't play or pitch say, you know what, it's the clock, it's the pitch clock. When you hear that, what goes through your mind?
That's something that we can't really control right now. That's kind of the game we've been forced to adjust to. I don't think that it's fair to really blame it on one specific thing, whether that's pitch clock, velocity, anything like that. I think it's a combination of things. But yeah, the guys that have that in their mind that the pitch clock has had an effect, I'm sure it has. But that's the game we're playing now, and everybody's been kind of forced to adjust to that.
Is velocity always been a focus for you? I mean, you throw extremely hard, but I'm curious, and along those lines of, the arm injuries and whatnot, everyone, it feels like from a young age, is trying to throw as hard as humanly possible. Was that your goal, or was it just to try and, kind of become the best pitcher? I guess I'm curious, how much you emphasize velocity, especially when you were becoming what you've become, talking about how, moving from D3 to Gardner-Webb into the pros. How much of an emphasis was throwing hard for you?
It's an emphasis for everybody, but I think it was more of a byproduct of focusing on improving on the mound. And that just kind of came with it. The gains I made off the field, physically, nutritionally, all kind of reflected in that velocity too. So, yeah, I think any pitcher chases some velocity to a certain degree. At certain points in your career, that's the difference between, whether your career ends or if you get to move up another level. So I think it's kind of incentivized that, velo might give you an extra chance that a guy that is throwing a little slower may not have.
Mason, I got to ask you, as a young boy, I grew up at the Coliseum watching Ricky Henderson and the A's win championships. And I'm just curious, when you play in front of, you're not playing in front of sellout crowds, does that affect you? Or, how difficult is that for you and your teammates knowing, it's not a Dodger crowd or a Yankee crowd every night?
I think the day we get back into town after playing in some bigger crowds, in front of some bigger crowds at bigger stadiums, I think those days might feel a little weird, but I think the adjustment clicks on pretty quick once that game starts. The competitor in us, it's a big league team on the other side of the diamond, and those games count just as much as games in Yankee Stadium or LA. So I think we know that and take pride in kind of defending our home field, whether there's people in the stands or not.
Well, best of luck continuing to do that, Mason. You've been nothing but spectacular so far. We look forward to your continued success. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
That's A's closer, Mason Miller.
Yeah, a lot of Giant fans said he looked great in the Giant uniform. Hey, slow down. I mean, Giants, they have a better record than the Giants. Who saw that coming?
He looked good in a lot of uniforms.
Dude's incredible,
including
the
Oakland A's one right now. I mean, dude, this guy is striking out batters at just an unfathomable rate. Like, he's impossible to hit.
You said he has a negative. You gave us the stat on the crossover Friday.
Yeah, but Uncle Louie reminded me in the YouTube chat that he's of the 48 outs that he's gotten, 33 are via the strikeout. So I had a chance to watch him pitch. I went to one of the Pirates games.
Okay.
And he came into the ninth inning. O'Neal Cruz, your boy, who, by the way, I think has gone deep in back-to-back games. He's hitting well.
I dropped him on my fantasy team, but go ahead.
That's probably why.
I'm in last. I won it last year. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. But Miller comes out of the pen. He starts him out with a couple sliders.
Oh, boy.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, that is so unfair to have 104 sitting in your back pocket
Evan.
and begin a batter with 2 sliders. He's pretty much just a 2-pitch guy at this point. He doesn't really throw the cutter much anymore now that he's come out of the bullpen. But the way that he can not just blow baseballs by guys' barrels, but also set them up, like he's a good pitcher, not just a thrower, which is the case for a lot of guys.
And you talked about it, asking him, he was a starter. And Evan, I just as a fan, you want to see more. But, man, right now this dude's almost Elliot Ness. And I know I keep using that. He's untouchable. But they got a good thing going. And what did I say their record was last year? Just 9-34 last year.
At this point, yeah.
They're 19-2. Just think about that, man. So I do wonder if they come. And, Evan, I had to bring up the crowd. Because just think about that. With a lot of what we do and people do, actors, everything is about performing in front of a crowd, and not to have that on a nightly basis, but still be able to compartmentalize and focus on the task at hand. Kudos to all the A's right now, because they're a fun watch.
I don't know what else is. Right now, I don't know what else there is. It's interesting comparing them with the Giants. So they have about the same record, right? They've been playing, but what about why are the A's more exciting than the Giants?
Because they have a chip on their shoulder. They're up there swinging the bat to me to where I'm like, who's Joe Spadoni? And he's up there swinging like he's Roberto Clemente. Like, I'm going to show you who I am, dude, from Union City. They got that. Yeah, you guys thought we're dead type of feel to them. To hell, we're going to sack. But focus on us, Evan. And I just watch him go, you think I'm just talking first to third? And this is a guy that puts a lot of chicken on the other teams the A's are playing. And I'm like, oh. Okay, now I know who Evan Giddings is. Like, they got a chip on their shoulder, and I just don't get that from the Giants and the newbies that they brought in. And I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose, but you could tell when you love the game of baseball when guys are not just the results, Evan, if this is crazy as sound, but if they're mentally invested, if they're pissed off, they're not, on base. I get that more from the A's than I do from the Giants. And I'm being as real with you as possible.
But I'm also hearing someone like Bob Melvin say we're playing terribly. I'm hearing Logan Webb talk about on Friday night after that loss, it's dog bleep, what we're doing right now. That may not be a chip, so to speak, that he's bringing, but I think that's at least understanding of what you haven't been doing. Wow. That's something we didn't hear from until the end of last season, and that was throwing card players under the bus. I don't think that there's been enough accountability in the recent years with the San Francisco Giants, but at the very least, I can look at this team and say they understand what's not happening, and they're not afraid to voice it. They're not to publicize it.
No doubt. When I heard Logan Webb say that, I was like, holy crap, because just hearing you talk right there, Evan, I went back to at the end of the year, the Dodgers series, I believe, when Webb went on a little walk, a little stroll in the park pregame with Kapler, and I was like, okay, everything's fixed or rectified. Obviously, it wasn't. They had a Pasoy problem. But, yeah, Evan, you got rid of Kapler. He was your fall guy. So you would think guys would be ready to go. And to hear Logan speak on, and let's be real, he's a pitcher once every 5 days. He's watching his guys get ready and what they're doing between the lines. I appreciate that stuff. But I guess the bigger problem is, do I start looking at Bo Mail like, you got to get your house in order, because if you're watching this and it's not up to your standards, it shouldn't take Webb saying that. You should be doing that.
But I do think it demands a player. I do think it demands a leader to call out your team and say, you're not playing well. What's happening right now is not acceptable. Because I think someone like Logan Webb does understand where they've been at this point each of the previous few years. And he can say, I got to put a pin in this now.
Wow.
I got to call out my team now to make sure that we've talked about the next 10 days are very important for this team. Because if you don't get some victories, if you just kind of sit in the mud, if you go 3-10 like you did the last 10 games, well then I don't know where this team is. Then you got to think about adjustments. You got to think about, moving guys. Like the Giants right now, are stuck below the middle because they're 19-23.
8 games back of the division if you're into that already.
People on social media this weekend were on Friday night talking about trading guys.
Oh,
we're not even 40 games in at this point.
Right. Yes. So let's just say this. Last year didn't help, Giant fan. They're upset. They had the 107. But you know what I mean, Evan? They miss me with all that. I feel like it's the message. They want wins. They want a contender. I don't blame them. And again, the one thing that Farhan doesn't need me to defend them, I was here and I didn't see any of the Soler, Snell. All those things caught me off. Even Chappie, those caught me off guard. And I was like, okay, Farhan, you did something. But just because there's activity and no achievement, you can't get those misconstrued. So I think for Melvin and Giant fans, I know it's the Dodgers, but it could have been Colorado or the Pirates. This is a big series. You just cannot get swept.
No, you can't, but that's where we're at, right? You just can't get swept. You got to take one game. You got to get 1 of 3. Compared to the Dodgers, who are coming in, they're pissed off because they lost to the Padres 2 or 3. They're trying to get all 3 games.
Yeah, I've watched, I don't know if people watching Dodgers Padres, but it plays well on TV, Yeah, I'm just saying.
Well, because that place was packed. And I do think Oracle is going to be jacked up tonight.
Okay.
I do think it's going to be packed. Now, it might be a lot of blue, but there's going to be a lot of fans there because they want to see the best show in baseball.
And Ohtani. Throw at him.
Well, we won't be.
Where does Ohtani
go? We can't just be.
What out of him? The ball?
Yeah, I'm down. Your boy had a bad weekend. I'm down bad.
You want to talk about it?
Send a message. That's all. Play hard. Joe Morgan. Will Clark.
Win the game. Win a game.
Well, there you go.
That's how you send a message.
But Logan Webb, when he said that, I was like, I appreciate that. He called them all out. This is horrid.
He was also talking about himself, too. He didn't pitch very well in 2 starts on the road.
Oh, you're right.
He pitched well over the weekend. Finally, or on Friday night, I should say. Got back to it, but they lost.
Game, no doubt. I'm like, this was the game I penciled in the win. Yeah.
They penciled in the series. They got 2 of 3 from Cincy. And now they got to try and find a way to get one against, I think, the best team in the NL, or one of. I think the Braves are also in that conversation, too.
And Willard and Dibbs are going to have Casey. Like, Schmidt's probably going to feel no better than he is today. He needed it, too.
He did.
He needed it,
I think the young guys needed that. They needed something to cling to hold on to say, like, this is why we should be here. This is why we should be called up. It's because we can come through in spots like that.
Yeah, I'm not advocating violence, guy. That just slipped out. But send a message. Just play hard is all that I'm trying to get over to. Yeah,
high chin music.
Chin music. What
Except
is it?
Mason Miller, you can't play that with 103. You kill somebody.
Well, he doesn't.
I know
he's not effectively wild.
So good,
man.
Yeah, he can actually command a baseball.
That's the only reason I didn't go pro. I was scared to get hit the curveball.
That's the reason.
Boy, I would bail.
That's the
I was
reason.
Serrano.
The only reason.
Yeah.
Pedro.
We'll find out the 31st for the 95-7 the game softball game.
You think Monte is still going to be an umpire for that game?
He just can't. And the closer we get to it, I'll call. But if the strict, you got to go.
Play.
You're a lefty, first base.
Yeah, we'll put him at first base. I would put him in the outfield.
No doubt.
He's an athlete. He's going to play in the Warriors World Tournament. Why can't he play in our
He had a good showing. And I wasn't there, but I saw the video. Yeah, you got to get up
like I'm Kobe or LeBron.
He's quick feet. Like I'm Kobe or LeBron.
Boy, 2 greats. Bronny. Who's the Bronny? I wish I had a Bronny.
You do. You got 2 boys. What do you mean?
But I'm nothing to give to him. Like, I want to be Bron to have something to...
It's like you do have 2 kids.
Like crapping all over your kids there.
No, never that.
Crapping on their pop. Yeah.
Oh, come on, Goog. You made something of yourself.
Well,
I mean, you're not the...
I'm fighting for my life,
maybe
Evan.
the greatest athlete to walk the earth, but...
Daryl?
Who is that? Oh, is that on the call? Actually, we're going to play that on the other side is what we're going to do. Daryl the Goober Johnson had one of the best rants about a baseball team that I have ever heard. We're going to play that on the other side on 95.7 The Game. I also do, I do want to get back into the playoffs, Scoob, because, again, I just feel like they are revealing of how far people perceive the Warriors to be away. And whether you're watching Denver or Minnesota, OKC and Dallas is tonight. And in fact, the Dallas OKC series might be one that gives some Warriors fans hope. I'm not sure if it does, but
you get to see Luka. Dude, him and they're hurt after, dude, just, oh my God. They're both studs, but I'm almost hurt every play. It's a tough watch,
888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings in for Matt Simons or Daryl the Goober Johnson. We'll be back after this. Big thank you to Mason Miller hopping on with us at the top of the hour. You can rewind on the free Odyssey app and check that out. By the way, you can download it directly from our QR code on both YouTube and Twitch, brought to you by First NorCal Credit Union. Upgrade your savings dividend. Open a First NorCal First Class Money Market today. That segment, by the way, was sponsored by Robert Half. We'll be back after this.